The story of Israel and Palestine is not just about politics. It's about identity, loss, and the struggle for a home. To understand this conflict, we must go back to where it all began. 1947. The year the world tried to draw new lines on an ancient map. In 1947, the United Nations proposed dividing Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, with Jerusalem as an international city. Arab nations rejected the plan, calling it unfair. As Britain withdrew in 1948, Jewish leaders declared the independent state of Israel. The next day, 5 Arab countries attacked, starting the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. When it ended in 1949, Israel controlled most of the land. Egypt took Gaza, Jordan took the West Bank and East Jerusalem, and Israel held West Jerusalem. Around 750,000 Palestinians fled or were forced from their homes, an event remembered as the Nakba, meaning the catastrophe. Tensions mounted again with the rise to power of Egyptian president in 1956. The Suez Crisis unfolded, a key turning point in the Arab-Israeli conflict. Egypt's President Gamal Abdel Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal, angering Britain and France, who had major interests there. In response, Israel, Britain and France secretly planned a military operation. Israel invaded Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, while Britain and France moved in under the pretext of peacekeeping. The invasion was a military success for Israel, but it triggered global outrage. The United States and the Soviet Union pressured the attackers to withdraw, forcing Israel, Britain and France to pull back. Though short-lived, the crisis boosted Nasser's image as a hero in the Arab world, while Israel proved its military strength and gained temporary control over the Sinai. The Suez Crisis deepened the rift between Israel and the Arab states, setting the stage for future wars. After this, Palestinian Liberation Organization was founded in 1964 during an Arab League summit in Cairo, Egypt, and for decades, the PLO was dedicated to terrorism against Israelis. Later, the Six-Day War of 1967 began when, in response to Arab neighbors' apparent mobilization for war, Israel attacked and destroyed Egypt's and Syria's air forces. Israel also defeated Jordanian attacks. The war ended with Israel in control of the Gaza Strip, the Sinai Peninsula, the West Bank, and Jerusalem. After the 1967 Six-Day War, the conflict entered a new and turbulent phase. Israel's occupation of new territories fueled anger across the Arab world and gave rise to Palestinian nationalism. In the years that followed, groups like Black September, a faction of the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, turned to violent attacks to draw global attention to their cause. Among the most shocking were the 1972 Munich Olympics massacre, where 11 Israeli athletes were killed. The 1974 Marlot school attack, which left 31 people dead, most of them children, and the 1978 Coastal Road massacre, in which 38 Israeli civilians, including 13 children, were murdered. These tragic events are highlighted in the documentary because they mark a turning point, when the conflict spread beyond the battlefield into acts of international terrorism, showing how deeply the struggle had divided people and how far both sides had moved from peace. After the 1967 Six-Day War, the Middle East saw repeated wars, peace efforts, and shifting alliances that reshaped the Israel-Arab landscape. In 1973, Egypt and Syria launched a surprise attack on Israel during Yom Kippur, the holiest day in Judaism. Known as the Yom Kippur War, it caught Israel off guard, but ended with an Israeli counterattack. The war restored Arab pride and pushed both sides toward diplomacy. This led to a historic breakthrough, the 1978 Camp David Accords, where Egypt's President Anwar Sadat and Israel's Prime Minister Menachem Begin signed a peace treaty in 1979. making Egypt the first Arab country to recognize Israel. In return, Israel withdrew from the Sinai Peninsula. However, peace with Egypt didn't end the wider conflict. In 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon to drive out the PLO, leading to years of fighting and international criticism. During the First Intifada, 1987 to 1993, Palestinians in the occupied territories rose up against Israeli control, marking a new phase of resistance. Hope resurfaced in 1993 with the Oslo Accords, where Israel and the PLO recognized each other and agreed on limited Palestinian self-rule. But progress soon faltered as violence, mistrust, and political assassinations derailed peace efforts. By 2000, after failed talks at Camp David II and the outbreak of the Second Intifada, the dream of lasting peace had once again slipped away, leaving the region trapped in cycles of violence, negotiation, and loss. After the year 2000, Israel and Palestine entered a darker, more fractured era. The peace talks collapsed, and the Second Intifada erupted. Years of bombings, raids, and bloodshed that buried the hope of reconciliation. Out of the chaos, Hamas rose to power, seizing control of Gaza in 2007 and splitting the Palestinian leadership in two: Hamas in Gaza, Fatah in the West Bank. The US recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital in 2017 further inflamed tensions. What followed were repeated wars, each leaving Gaza in ruins and thousands dead, while Israel's blockade deepened the humanitarian crisis. Peace efforts faded, and Israeli settlements expanded, dimming the dream of a two-state solution. In 2020, Israel normalized ties with several Arab nations: UAE, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco through the Abraham Accords. But the Palestinians were left behind, their struggle overshadowed, their statehood still out of reach. The latest war began on October 7, 2023, when Hamas militants launched a surprise attack on southern Israel. Thousands of rockets rained down, and fighters stormed Israeli towns, killing around 1,200 people and taking more than 250 hostages, many of them civilians. In response, Israel declared war, one of the deadliest and most destructive campaigns in modern Middle Eastern history. For nearly 2 years, Gaza became a battlefield. Entire neighborhoods were flattened, and more than 67,000 Palestinians were killed, with tens of thousands more injured. Over 70% of Gaza's infrastructure, homes, schools, hospitals, and water systems now lies in ruins. The United Nations and World Bank estimate it will take at least $50 to $60 billion and more than a decade to rebuild what was lost. Amid global pressure and humanitarian collapse, a US brokered peace deal was finally reached in October 2025. The agreement included a ceasefire, the release of Israeli hostages, the exchange of nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, and the partial withdrawal of Israeli forces. For the first time in years, aid trucks rolled freely into Gaza, and silence fell over skies long filled with drones and bombs. But beneath the silence, the questions remain. Who will rebuild Gaza? Who will govern it? And can peace survive in a land so deeply scarred? This war, like those before it, has left behind not just rubble, but generations marked by loss. Yet even amid the ruins, there are still voices calling for hope, for justice, for a day when borders no longer define who suffers and who survives. Because until both peoples, Israeli and Palestinian alike, find safety, dignity, and the right to live without fear, the war may stop, but peace will still be waiting.